Hello everyone! Pineapple here with the MCU's latest show, Daredevil Born Again. The second show I'm reviewing from the MCU. Ironically, the first was the latest Spider-Man show, but this review is coming out before that one, so that's something. This acts as a simple way to integrate Daredevil, Matt Murdock and the show's sidecast, into the MCU, after his appearance in She-Hulk, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Kingpin in Hawkeye and Echo. Thankfully, I remember almost nothing of the original Daredevil show, and while it works a lot better if you do, you don't really need to have seen it. It just takes a little bit of inference on the audience's part from the main character's conversations. So without further ado, let's start looking at these first 3 episodes with the best start, Episode 1. The show opens on a building we see a bit of later. No idea of this building's real identity having any significance. But I ain't hunting it down. And we get a pretty well done look at who our main cast was and will be as Matt, reprised by Charlie Cox, Foggy, reprised by Eldon Henson, and Karen, played by Deborah Ann Woll. They go for drinks and meet the new cast pretty naturally as Foggy tries to hit up soon-to-be Matt's co-worker Kirsten McDuffie, played by Nikki M. James, and Clark Johnson, who once directed some of Luke Cage, playing Cherry, a retired investigator, also soon to be helping Matt. With a pretty cool aspect change, Matt hears a call to Foggy, someone who is hiding at his apartment is being attacked by an assassin who, if you already couldn't tell, was Bullseye from this fly kill. He has a great whopping one on his glove. But as Matt leaves with dodgy CGI to save him, Bullseye has already come back around and killed his real target, Foggy, right in front of Karen, who, all points to her, is almost instantly ready to bust a cap in Bullseye's ass. Matt makes it back, starting a fight scene of epic proportions, and I love it, I really do. It's a sign of real creativity and passion, but my god does some of this CGI look like the rubber people physics in Blade 2. For a lot of the fight in the lower portion of the bar, the people look like cartoons, even if I love what they're going for, and Matt had the same problem on the roofs earlier. As far as I recall, the only other issue I had with presentation was the occasional overuse of shaky cam. I love the shot comp and the lighting of this show on the whole for these first episodes, but this really needed more time and money. When the actors are there, the fight is good, and they make their way to the roof as Foggy dies in Karen's arms. And in rage, Matt throws Bullseye off the roof, just shy of killing the man.
Now that's a lot of damage!
But because he lost Foggy and he was that close to committing straight up murder, he tosses the mask, only to be found by Cherry, recognizing him. Sure, killing Foggy is cheap, but this was a really solid way of heightening the emotions enough to justify this show's clean slate. The opening credits aren't one I'd rewatch every episode, but they are solidly designed. I love the marble design and effects. Now jumping to 1 year later, eating whatever the hell this is Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. Last seen in Echo, recovering from his physical trauma.
Eye to eye.
And now coming back after his mental trauma.
What did you do?
With some pretty creative filming. He comes to reunite with his wife, who has been handling the criminal empire in his absence, pissed at his leaving after spending so much time at his sickbed. Which is fair. Echo shot Kingpin, and then he spent all this time going to find Echo instead of, thanking his wife for being with him all that time. Fisk is back to become mayor and get his wife back, and we get introduced to another common theme of these episodes, the BB report. And while I get what they're going for, boy is it annoying and such an interruption. It feels like a little, hello fellow kids, but this BB actually has ties to the old show, the daughter of a man in the last show killed by Fisk. Which makes it pretty awkward later on when she interviews him and seems not to hate the man. We see Matt's new firm with McDuffie. I wonder if she was from her mother's womb untimely ripped. Matt testifies against Bullseye, a pretty solid scene, and outside he meets Karen, and she pretty much immediately leaves after the heavy sentencing. Apparently they fell apart, him leaving her on red for 3 weeks as he wallowed, and her not responding to him afterwards for the other 49 weeks of a year. Kinda happy she's mostly out of the show after that. After she leaves, giving Matt a lost piece of his helmet, while cooking in the dark he hears Fisk running his campaign and defaming vigilantes. Well, I guess it's good he's out of the game. Fisk's team aren't the best characters, boring woman one, British one, and this annoying child in a man's body. They barely do anything, but after 2 scenes I was pretty over them. McDuffie sets Matt up with a client, Heather Glenn, turning out to be a career therapist. Well played. But instead of therapy or lawyering, they actually hit it off really well.
That's not funny. That is inappropriate, it's unethical, and it's kind of creepy, if I'm honest.
Cherry has come to inform Matt about Fisk, no illegalities found, and a very invested fanbase, telling Cherry to let it go, only for him to ambush Fisk and have a really tense lunch where the actors play off each other pretty well, mentioning what happened in Echo and their past well. Both pretty endearing, but with each at a standstill waiting for the other to screw up, Matt vowing to take Fisk to task if he ever goes rogue, and Fisk making sure Matt thinks twice before suiting up, actually making sure he knows he had nothing to do with Foggy. At night, Matt takes Heather out, getting a peck at the end, and gets the news. Fisk won the election. But Fisk's wife isn't impressed. Fisk telling her he knows about Adam, I guess her lover, one of the guys from the room before, promising not to kill him, although if it is a guy, I'm not sure how long that'll last. And Matt disappears with this nice shot as Fisk looks down from above. It drags on a little, but is a cool ending. A pretty solid episode, but not without some issues. But the premiere isn't finished without episode 2. Episode 2 starts with Fisk doing his mayorly duty, and a man coming home with flowers for his wife comes across 2 men beating down another, so he takes it into his own hands, wrecking the 2 guys' shit, one inadvertently being hit onto the tracks right as a train passes. And the other guy reveals they were cops, making this guy defending the defenseless a cop killer. I mean, sure, all he did was manslaughter a dirty cop, but technically still a cop killer. Fisk's campaign manager tells him his optics would be better if he fixed his marriage, but like, what do the optics really matter now? He's in for his term, unless he has his own Julia Gillard ready to oust him like Judas to Jesus.
Today, I am throwing open the government's door to the mining industry.
As far as I know about the politics of being a mayor, he should be fine. Matt comes across this man, Camar de los Reyes, as Hector Ayala, or the teased vigilante White Tiger, as he's being beaten by cops in a back room, so Matt takes on his case, wanting to see a good Samaritan that, as will be pointed out by Cherry later, reminds him of himself. We haven't seen much of the actual White Tiger, and all I know about the character is the chick Spider-Man teams up with in that one cartoon, but what we do see of Hector this episode is pretty interesting, and I'd like to see where his character arc goes. Spoiler alert, after watching episode 3, it doesn't go anywhere. Back with Fisk, he pulls a publicity stunt by getting a large pothole filled, which is a really good moment, but also really silly. I love it. Matt's friends are hesitant to help Hector, but by stroking their egos and morals, he gets them on side, and starts his case, the judge a real dickhead, not listening to his defense. I assume that would mean the judge would be a one-note asshole who only works as an obstacle, but he actually has moments later on where he bars all evidence pertaining to White Tiger from the case, showing he does have an actual idea of how the case should be run. We finally see BB's face as the annoying one gets her Fisk interview, where he takes her phone. I'm pretty sure he forgets to give it back, as he doesn't even look her in the eyes as she leaves. As if the annoying one didn't give enough incel energy, Wednesday's psycho boyfriend is trying to get a signature from Matt's girlfriend. And due to her talk of masks and shit, and Muse is the only unknown actor I've heard of for this show, I'll assume it's this creep. Just after, she is also met by the Brit, but that'll pay off later. Fisk ends up meeting the commissioner over the dead cop's grave, not hitting it off in the slightest. The commish is actually dropping bars as he makes his distaste known. As across town, McDuffie and Cherry try to convince Hector's semi-estranged wife into court, him snooping and finding the White Tiger suit and magic amulet. Matt tearing into Hector about it and sharing a really good argument scene with him. The commish meets Fisk again, ready to resign, but rethinks it after a really clever threat. A real effort of showmanship.
You're originally from Philadelphia.
That's right.
And you know that cheesesteaks are great in Philly.
What the fuck is he on about?
But he doesn't go away quietly. Cherry is insistent, trying to get Matt to act more, happy to see him do more good as Matt than Daredevil, and we get this really interesting scene where Matt stops across the street from a church, listening to the sermon but not daring to go in. Perhaps as other watchers posited, he doesn't think he's good enough to go in. Is he looking for something to stop him intervening like he does? There's no certain answer, but it's just a nice little stop that makes you think. Matt follows the dirty cop home, Heather unable to meet him, as she has plans to couples counsel the Fisks, which is a really funny visual. We don't go anywhere fast, but even in this little scene, there are notable extra details to show the writers are really thinking about the characters. The dirty cops are looking to kill the guy on the platform, so Matt gets to Nikki's first, getting him to escape in Cherry's direction as he stalls the cops, getting a beating for his troubles, after they do the whole shoulder bump move thing, which I think is a really funny power move to do to a blind guy. Matt yells, seemingly both at himself and them, not wanting to go back to his old habits and fight, but absolutely wrecks their shit. Seriously, it's beautifully brutal. And the episode ends with him screaming in rage at what he was forced to do. An annoyingly abrupt, but otherwise really good cap off of the premiere. I think this show would work a lot better if you binged it, these cliffhangers being a little more frustrating than anything else, but that doesn't mean they aren't well done. I'd take these over Sylvester McCoy sliding down a cliff face for no particular reason any day. Episode 3 pretty much picks up where we left off in the case, Matt and Hector sharing a nice scene about frogs, giving hope that I'm sure Hector will last past this episode. Right? And in the meantime, a bunch of criminals can't figure out how to play nice without Mummy or Daddy Fisk hanging around. So we see what is essentially the start of a possible gang war. We get more BB reports and I just can't get myself to care. It's a nice thing to have, fleshing out the people's opinion of this world, but I'd much rather be seeing more Matt or Kingpin, not these random people on the street. It just kind of feels like a distraction to pad the runtime. And in a 9-episode season, that's not a good look. Fisk tries to solve the gang war by sending the cops onto it, but Vanessa is pretty hard set on handling it themselves, as whoever gains the most power on the street will almost certainly interfere with them. And it might just be because the premiere was a week ago for me as I write this, but I swear to God I have no idea why Kingpin's knuckles are freshly injured here. Unlike Matt, who is getting cornered in the bathroom by the idiot he just beat the shit out of, and running verbal laps around him. We get to see Cherry doing his thing, keeping Nikki Torres under guard, and just high enough to be on the stand without incident. And even with all that going on, my only question is why his name is so close to an NCIS agent. Dirty Cop gets put on the stand, but Matt pretty nicely prepares to rake him across the coals. But as Nikki is being brought in, some of the Dirty Cops, reiterated as a gang by all having the Punisher-inspired tattoos, try to kill Nikki on the way. But Cherry bluffed them, and when put on the stand, Nikki immediately purges himself and takes back everything he said about the night. Why? All one can guess is that he looks at the cops, perhaps the dirty ones, and gets scared of what they'll do to him. But he was fine before, and there was no witness tampering, so it just makes this avenue feel like a cheap way to get Matt desperate. It doesn't seem to happen for a clear reason, and apart from the drug problem the show made us think was solved, there was no other indication that this would go awry. Chekhov's gun without actually showing us the gun. Meanwhile, the gang stuff gets settled by British guy who I refuse to learn the name of.
I don't work for the mayor. I work for the man.
No idea what that means considering he was sent out by the wife, but whatever. I find it funny as they fight while their therapist is out of the room. That night, Matt figures out his only course of action, and the next day he shakes the courtroom by backing up Hector's story not with CCTV or witnesses, but by revealing Hector's character as the White Tiger, pissing off the prosecution and judge. But now that it's out in the open, there isn't much to be done but get on with the trial, and hope he hasn't killed anyone on the job.
I sit atop a pyramid of over 500 ADAs. You're not going to be able to stumble into traffic court without one of them up your ass.
I love butt stuff.
Hector is pissed off because, you know, now anyone who hates White Tiger knows where to find he and his family, and we get through the closing statements. Matt perhaps name-dropping Miles Morales' father, but using the wrong name, so I hope this really wasn't meant to be a reference. And after the prosecution spends his closing trying to guilt the jury into pretending like the cop didn't immediately become soup when the train hit, and sucking off the boys in blue, Hector is released. After Fisk fumes to BB, disregarding the jury's decision like Hector is OJ or some shit, and Matt has a nice dinner with Heather, Hector goes out in the suit and is immediately executed by a Punisher pretender. I suppose his magical amulet can make him super strong, but can't protect him from lead to the temple. Is this a good shock ending? Yes. It's effective, but is it really annoying White Tiger was set up for these 3 episodes and immediately killed when we haven't set up a character to take the mantle? Also very much yes. And just to rub it in, we hear the whistling frogs Hector talked about in the beginning playing over the credits. So, was this episode frustrating? Yes, but most of it was pretty good stuff. I've seen a lot of great reviews for this show, but in the negatives there is a common thread. Why isn't Daredevil daredeviling? And I'd get that if this were a season 4 of Daredevil, I'd be pissed. But that's not what this is. It's a reset. It's about a broken man trying to do better within the law, and eventually I'm assuming he'll come to terms with the fact that not everything can be solved in the courtroom, as Hector may have beaten the crooked cops in there, but he was then immediately killed by one on the street. So eventually we all know Matt is going to be pushed too far again, and while they didn't need to tell this story, it could have just been Daredevil Season 4, I like that they're trying something new, even if it had to start off with a predictively manipulative cheap rug pull in Foggy's death. Thank you everybody for watching my review of Daredevil, episodes 1 to 3. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring that notification bell so that you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.